Welcome back to Rally DNA for the finale of season two. Something a bit different this time. A couple of weeks ago, I was fortunate enough to be hosted by a man by the name of Donagh Kelly. Donagh is a former Irish national champion and Irish tarmac rally champion who had one of the most dominant years in Irish rallying in 2015 in his Focus WRC 08. And he hosted us at his very special Stables Motorsport Centre. Donagh, thanks for giving us your time and inviting us here today.
Thanks for making the trip from Cork. A challenge in itself.
Yeah, but surely worth it. Can you tell us a bit about where we're standing right now?
I suppose we're at the Stables Motorsport Centre, and right now we're standing in the Donegal room, which is a room that has a full tribute to all things rally in Donegal, and obviously we have a huge history of rallying in the county, so we wanted to do something special just to recognise the significance of the Donegal Rally and the participants and organisers over the last 50 years or so.
Fantastic. Now I should point out, and obviously people listening to this are unfortunate not to be standing here witnessing it, but the presentation in here is absolutely fantastic. We've got photos covering the whole wall. We've got cabinets full of programmes going all the way back, every Donegal programme.
Yeah, every Donegal from the start, even the Rally of the Rosses, which was the precursor to the International, so in 1971. But yeah, every programme, every original from the start.
And there's two very special cars sitting here in front of us now. What are these cars and what makes them special? Why do they deserve a place in the Donegal room?
I suppose the Lancia Stratas won the rally with Billy Coleman in 1977, and then we have Donagh Kelly's car that won the rally 3 years in a row. Probably the car that broke my heart for 3 years, but at the same time very special, and special to so many people in Donegal. Manus was the people's champion, and it was a great honour to be able to procure the car and have it here back in its original colours.
For sure, it's great to see it in the original ones that are probably the best known, rather than the apple green ones as well. And I see there's a lovely touch in it there. There's a set of pace notes in it from its last outing, its last victory.
Yeah, that's Donald Barrett gave me the pace notes and everything from the last run he had with Manus in the car, you know. So yeah, nice to keep the authenticity intact, you know.
Absolutely, for sure. It's really those kind of touches throughout the Stables Centre here that really makes the whole thing really that extra bit special.
Yeah, and you know, things like Bertie Fisher's wife had given me some of Bertie's trophies. I actually have his first Donegal trophy from '87 when he won in the Manta, and Kieran McAnallen had gifted me the '95 trophy when he won in the blue Impreza, you know. So things like that, you know, it's a real honour to have that type of memorabilia here, you know, and people can see it and touch it and feel the whole significance of what it means to people in the county.
Absolutely.
You know, as you can see in the room, we have a map on the wall here of every stage that was ever run in the county. People get great enjoyment interrogating this map to see how we actually captured every stage, and we've had competitors over the last 50 years authenticate and verify the stages, you know. So again, it's something that people get very, very interested in. The collage of photographs that we have on the wall too are from Rally Ireland, Donegal Town, our local drivers and the international drivers, and there are thousands of photographs that make up the three images here on the walls. And again, a lot of our visitors get great fun into trying to find themselves in there in the maze of thousands of photographs, and most find themselves there somewhere because we think we've captured everybody. The various photographs, there are hundreds of photographs here on the walls that depict the rally, and again, as you can see in many of them, the original drivers have signed the pictures as well. So it's just something that captures the essence of the Donegal Rally, and hopefully we will add to it in years to come. And yeah, it's for me, it's trying to preserve the history of the sport. We are a minority sport, but for those that are the minority, it means everything to them. So it's great to preserve the history, and hopefully it'll be here for decades to come.
Fingers crossed. I think. I mean, any rally enthusiast, be it from the island of Ireland or elsewhere, would be certainly have their mind blown to be standing here looking at the memorabilia and the quality of cars that we're looking at here today.
Yeah, and I think it's not just about the cars. It is about the memorabilia. And the memorabilia tell a story.
Exactly.
When you see the likes of the race suits, I think there's somewhere in the region of 50 race suits. Everything from Bertie Fisher to Austin McHale to Vincent Bonner, Sebastian Loeb, and Ogier, etc. We really do capture as much as we can in terms of rallying and touching and feeling the stuff. And that's I think the difference that we have here is that we want our visitors to actually touch and feel, open the cars up, sit in the cars. It's not all cornered off that people can't actually live the experience. So and that's why we keep the collection somewhat private. We don't open to the public. It is for enthusiasts, and all enthusiasts are welcome here.
Yeah, that's something that's really struck me. I mean, I'd been talking to people who'd been here before I came up, but they wouldn't reveal many details that it was best experienced. And what's really struck me is there's nothing in a display case. As you say, you can touch and feel it, get up close to it. There's nothing hidden behind a bit of glass that you can't get up close to.
Yeah, and I think we trust the enthusiasts that they're not going to do anything that's going to damage or take away from what we've achieved here. So that's why it's for rally people all over Ireland and further afield to come and enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that those people will have a lot of respect for what you've done here and what's on display here. So I don't think there's any fear that anyone would absolutely break that trust. And I think it's fair play. You have to be commended for the level of trust that you give to people. And you were very welcoming to us here today, saying get in and sit in the cars and pull out what you want from the programs and all that, which is you've been made feel very welcome here today. And thank you again for that.
Yeah, and I smile when I see people going through programs. Everybody wants to find themselves in an entry list somewhere, and I saw a guy here some time ago. He thought he'd done a rally 50 odd years ago, and he spent a lot of time searching, but he did find himself on the entry list, albeit very close to the end of the field, but he was quite happy with himself. That,
Still chuffed.
He's there on the entry list.
There's something before we finish up in here that I want to point out. There's what looks to be a lamp there in the corner.
Yeah,
but it is in fact.
Yeah, that's Bertie's winning trophy from the Donagh Rally in 1995. And again, Kieran McAnallen was very generous. Kieran was obviously Bertie's main sponsor through Toughmac. He's been very generous over the years in gifting us a lot of items, from race suits to helmets to trophies, etc. So again, it's great that people see the benefit of items like that being here on display.
Perfect. So now we're standing in the stables, which gives this place its name. And what are we standing next to here, Donagh?
Yeah, this is a replica of Paddy Hopkirk's Monty winning Mini. And we were blessed, we had Paddy here last year. He spent a couple of days with us, and yeah, what an honour, and unfortunately Paddy passed away earlier this year, and to have him here and listen to some of the stories from yesteryear, and when I don't think we realised just how much Paddy achieved in his motorsport career, especially through the 50s and 60s. Yeah, it was amazing. I've read one of his books, and I hadn't appreciated just how much of a star Paddy was, and the little replica here is believed to be one of the most authentic replicas made. Even sitting inside it, I think there's a box of Player cigarettes from the day, so yeah, very special little car, and I think what makes it really special is that Paddy was actually here himself, and I'd spent some time with him, especially in England over the last few years, and he was such a character, and yeah, certainly missed, and we miss characters actually in the sport. guys like Paddy and that. But yeah, it's a beautiful little car. Sitting next to it is the Hyundai WRC that Juha Kankinen had driven. Yeah, it's a beautiful car. Probably not one of my favourites, and I talked about maybe selling it several times, but other people seem to really like it. So kind of torn whether to hold on to it or not. But it's a beautiful car. In any case, sitting next to the Hyundai is actually Colin McRae's Suzuki TSX, or that is on loan from Dennis Ferry, but it's actually Colin's bike, you know. And again, very special to have something belong to Colin, you know. And yeah, it's just a little bit different. And again, next to that is a Porsche that Damien Faulkner used in 09. Different, but Damien Faulkner, again, is probably one of the best racing drivers from County Donegal. Had a career of over 20 years racing professionally for Porsche. This possibly wasn't his most successful car, but it's a lovely GT3 Cup car, and yeah, nice to have, and I think it's nice to give Damien some recognition for what he achieved, albeit not in rallying. You know, and for those that come are kind of surprised to learn just how good Damien actually was. And finally, next to that is probably the oldest car here. It's a Mercedes 190 SL Rennsport. It's a 1959 car that was built by Rennsport, mainly to compete in the Mille Mille. I think Sterling Moss was the forerunner in the SL 300, and this was more kind of a customer spec car, but yeah, very rare. I've been asked would I part with it several times, and the difficulty with parting with a car like this is you can't go down to your local Mercedes dealer and order another one. So
quite literally irreplaceable.
Yeah, well, for now it's certainly going nowhere. Again, I suppose on the walls here with again lots of photographs, race suits. You see there with the Felipe Massa race suit from the time he was with Williams. You know, so again, there's a wide range of different memorabilia that we have on display. Even sitting up in the corner, there's a pair of race boots there that actually first race boots I ever had. So back nearly 30 years ago.
They are stuck in the display case, presumably not because you have smelly feet or anything, no?
I think I wore them for about 10 years, so I think they're just a bit knackered, so they're better than a display case at this point, you know.
That Mercedes is incredibly elegant. I think it's from a time where cars were just shaped differently and built to a different sort of idea, weren't they?
Yeah, it's, you know, I think a lot of non-rally people that are here think it's some kind of a James Bond car from the 60s, but yeah, it's very stunning even, you know, 60 odd years later. And you must have been some guy 60 odd years ago to have a car like that, because it really is timeless.
For sure, and spending all that time on it in the Mille Miglia as well, an incredibly demanding event.
Absolutely. We're now in the, I suppose it's the model car collection room. Sitting in here we also have another Mini Cooper, a Mark II, the car I used myself on the last Deja Vu. Fun little car. I don't know how anybody drove them for days or weeks on end, because they're not the easiest to drive. And I have my Mark I Escort that I've used in the past, used it in Killarney Historics a few years. Great fun car to drive. My son had it out on his last outing, and it took us nearly 2 years to fix it afterwards, so it hasn't moved since.
Is that the last time you'll give it to him then?
No, we'll see. He's a better driver now than he was back then. And again, in the model cars, I don't know many here, there's over 1,000. But again, what we try to capture in the model car collection is a lot of the Irish cars. and if you look at the detail, we can see the Fisher Subaru, Nesbitt, McHale BMW, McHale Sierra, James Cullen's Pink Sierra. There's so many Finley's Sierra that Craig is going to use next weekend down in Killarney. Again, Maher's Mark 2 Escort is Cosworth the 90 TS, Cosworth Austin's 165. There's just so many models from the Irish era, but then across all of rallying from the current day right back to the 70s. So, and for those that are into models, they spend hours in here just enjoying it. Again, on the walls here we have Auger and Gracia's suits from the time they were in the Fiesta. We have a corner over here. Also a collage of pictures that is in honour to Brian Patterson, Dougie Hughes, and also recognising the media in our sport. There's lots of pictures of the guys that contribute to the sport. Guys that I'm looking at on the picture, like Ezra Crawford, Martin Walsh, Dermot Gallagher there, Pamela Valentine. There's so many that are so recognisable to us that are involved in the sport.
Those are the kind of people, as you mentioned characters earlier, some of the ones that have done as much for the sport as anyone directly in it and competing. You know, when you think back, and your memories of the sport are often led by some of those as well.
Oh, absolutely, you know, and as you see outside, we have Dougie Hughes' van, the iconic van that he had for years on the stages. Dougie gifted me the van after he clattered it in Milford many years ago, and but to have it and have it on display and to have a little tribute to Dougie is really, really important, because he contributed so much to the sport, and he was a character, and I think he was our Murray Walker. The facts weren't always accurate, you know, but they were certainly entertaining.
Well, Murray wasn't always that accurate either, to be fair, so maybe it's a good comparison. So now we're probably in what must be the centrepiece of the whole collection, and somewhere you walk into and you're greeted with what must be said an incredible light and sound show, which I completely was not expecting. And it was an incredible introduction that I really couldn't describe anyway without the help of a visual aid. But this is, where to start here. Well, we'll go through what's in here one by one. But it's one of the most stunning kind of rooms of rally cars and memorabilia I've ever seen. And I'm still kind of grinning ear to ear looking at some of the stuff that's in here, to be fair.
Yeah, this is the main hall, and I suppose we have a collection that spans different eras, different decades, etc. You know, and for me, I grew up with the BRC being in full flight with the kit cars in the mid 90s, and I just had a graw for that era and wanted to try and capture the history of that era. And the first car we're looking at here is the Astra kit car, which was driven. There's only 3 of these cars ever made, but we had the likes of Neil Weirden, Mark Higgins, Tappy O'Loughlin that had driven these cars. And this particular car actually ran car 1 in Donegal in 98 with Jarmo Cotletto. Probably not the most successful kit car that was ever built. It was Ray Malloch that ran those cars. The car next to it is probably the most successful, which is the Renault Maxi Megane. And this was the car that Martin Rowe used to win the BRC. Martin actually sent me his BRC trophy along with his race suit and his helmet, which he was kind enough to donate. This car actually won the Manx Rally 3 times. And again, probably still used in competition in the likes of France. Very sought after car, and to try and ensure the car was authentic, we did a lot of research, and actually it was on a photograph that McLean had sent us. We noticed a splatter of weld on the roll cage, and we asked the seller in France to send us a picture of that particular part of the cage, and thankfully the splatter weld is still there. So we knew we had the right car.
That's some eye to pick that out. Like, how long did you spend, trying to verify this car and others? Like, how much of a process goes into that? Because as many people listening will know, cars change number plates and colours and numbers, and you can't even always, trust what it says on the chassis on the bulkhead either.
Yeah, look, that is it's a challenge, and some are easier than others because you know who the owner has been for a long period of time, and others take a little bit more work. And there's been cars we've walked away from because we haven't been happy with just the verification,
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, look, that's a challenge. You don't want to end up with something that's not right.
Absolutely. And the colours that the McGann is in is the Manx colours, which was from, and this was the peak BRC era, certainly in my opinion as well. I think when people think of the kit cars in the BRC, they do think of outings to the Manx really most of all.
Yeah, and again, speaking to guys like Martin, giving us some of the stories associated with the car, and there's a great story of when they were chased by, well, he wasn't chased, it was a French engineer, was chased by the police in Letterkenny as he was out warming brakes or something one even before scrutiny, and it ended up in a court case the next morning, which I think they had a successful outcome, but and again, it's little stories like that help the whole fun of the thing, and we have the Said Ibiza kit car, which we actually had out on the Deja Vu in Westport. Kevin Flanagan drove it, and he said it's such a fun thing to drive. He said really, really fun and surprisingly fast. So it's in the Gwyndaf Evans colours, which is quite iconic. The car next to it is the Nissan Almera kit car that Mark Higgins had driven, and again Mark had driven this on the recent Deja Vu, and he said it probably was one of the worst cars he ever drove. He said the Nissan Sunny was a much better car because of the rear beam. It had independent suspension on the rear. This is a beam, and he said he couldn't get the back of this car to work. But this car was actually sourced by a good friend of mine in Japan, and was shipped home, and it was a bare shell restoration. And the detail on this car it's unreal. The work is very, very. I don't know. You couldn't get a higher standard. It certainly didn't come out of the factory like that. It's absolutely perfect. So the next car is a car that was sourced in Finland. It's Tapio Lankinen's Golf kit car, the Sony kit car. And I sent my son with a van and trailer to Finland. It took him 10 days to go collect this car and bring it home. And it took a year to restore this car. And out of all the cars in here, it's probably the highest class of finish. It's unbelievable, the work that's gone into this car, and this car won the Scottish Rally in 2000. Won it by default because actually it was Neil Weirden who won the rally in Evo and was disqualified for post-event scrutiny with the wrong brake pads or the likes, and Tapio at the time actually gave Neil the trophy because he didn't feel that he deserved to win the rally, but on paper it shows that he won the Scottish Rally in that car. But it's absolutely stunning. I don't know if I'd be minded to take it on the road. It's so good. So we're into a completely different era now. We're at the Fiesta, the 2017 WRC that Auger had used over the 2017 season. It's won three world events and helped him win the championship. Again, an investment, but one that I feel that will stand the test of time. To look at these cars compared to the others, they're just absolutely mind-blowing. I look at them as they're our current Group B cars. The aero and just the stance. I drove that car myself in Deja Vu, and every now and again we had the pleasure of putting it into stage mode and giving it a bit of a rattle, and I'd love nothing more than looking up Knockall in it up Malls Gap. It's just unbelievable to drive.
Will we ever see that?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. Let's see. And again, the next car is the Yaris WRC. This is the car that Elton Evans won Finland in last year. We're one of 5 collections in the world to have a Yaris. There was one in Japan, one in Monte Carlo, 2 at Toyota in Germany. I think Jari Matti has one in his display in Finland, and then ourselves. So, real honour to be able to have a car like that sitting here in the northwest of Ireland. It's hard to believe at times, really.
Yeah.
You know, but the detail on the aerodynamics is just mind-boggling.
You could spend hours looking at the amount of aerodynamic devices on it. Everywhere you look, there's another thing sticking out, and there's a curve, or there's a vent, or there's a slat, or there's a wing, and there's everything you could think of, and it just keeps going on. And even the wing in particular, you must think of the hours that was spent on CAD coming up with this stuff.
I think, speaking to the guys at Toyota, the reason probably these cars aren't rallied by privateers is just the cost of the aero pack alone. I believe it's somewhere in the region of 120 grand for the carbon fibre on this car.
Just under one car.
Yeah, that's, when you look at it, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And the detail in it is unreal. The next car is the Citroen WRC C3. There's a car, there's only done one world event with Escapaka Lati, fully authentic. Even inside still is the headsets, gloves, balaclavas. I think they're even a set of throat lozenges or something in one of the bags there. So
pretty much as it came off the stage, last stage.
And again, it's probably there's a conception that the C3 wasn't that successful, but the C3 has won a lot of rallies. But probably it had some handling issues for sure, but it's a stunning car to look at, especially from the rear.
Yeah.
It's pretty mental.
And this is the best livery I think they did on the C3 as well. This is the anniversary livery, isn't it, for Citroen?
Yeah. But just the stance of the car is just unreal, and you can see sitting next to it we have a set of Chris Meek overalls from when he was at Citroen, so that's what we try to do. We try to match up as much as we can to the cars to have them authenticated, So next car is my own Ford Focus, which allegedly is the most successful Ford Focus that ever came out of M Sport. It has won 2 World Championship events with Mikko Hirvonen. I have had, I think it's 22 wins in this car. And it's, out of all the cars this year, it's the one that is my favourite. It'll be the last to go. It's just a special car to me, and what a wonderful car to drive. It's just so good.
I mean, when people think of you, Donagh, they'll think of this car, I think, predominantly.
I was late to the top flight of the sport. I was busy building a business and didn't have time for rallying, and my energy went into that whilst I was in my 20s and 30s, and it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I actually started to race at that level. But that car was just it was like an extension of myself. I just loved it. Felt so comfortable in it and so confident. It's been a brilliant car, and great car for reliability. And the guys at VSM and Derry that look after all my cars, they just they're perfectionists, and from a mechanical point of view, I think about 2 or 3 retirements for mechanical reasons, which over the course of, I don't know, many rallies, 50, 60 rallies is...
It's an incredible statistic in rallying. I think when I was looking at your 2015 statistics, out of all that year, you didn't retire in a single event that year in that car.
Yeah, that's not one I looked at, but yeah, I can believe it for sure, because the work the guys put into prepping the cars is unreal. So the next one is James Cullen's Ascona 400 JZP 252. Again, famous with not alone James but many other Irish drivers. I think Donagh Keaton had it. Dennis Cronin was the last in Ireland to have it. And again, because of its Donegal heritage, it fits well with what we're doing here. And James was very unlucky not to win in '98 against Mark Lovell. He had issues on the Friday, but after that he was the man to beat all weekend. So, and James drove that car this year in Donegal when we done the Legends tribute. So special to me and to many in Donegal. The next car is actually the latest addition, which is Ford Escort Maxi kit car. For me to complete the BRC collection, we needed an Escort Maxi. We're trying to buy the response car for years, but just couldn't get a deal. And this is the next best. This was a car that was built for Gwyndaff for, I think it was the '97 season. It was an upgrade from the response car, but he had signed with Seat, and the car became surplus, and I think it was Lars Anderson drove it, and then Julian Porter. But we bought it recently of Will Onions in the UK, who's had it for 20 odd years. It was fully restored 8 years ago by Phil Mills, and the car again it's great when you get a car in that you don't have anything to do to it. I think you need to clean the windscreen, that's it. It's absolutely perfect, so but that's for me, that's our BRC collection complete. With 6 cars from that area. We didn't bother with the Hyundai. Just doesn't really do it for us. It was ugly and never really had any results. So
this Escort is very underappreciated, I think, in terms of rallying Escorts, because this one at the time would have been kind of overshadowed by your Group A's and later your Escort WRC, but I think this is probably better looking actually than a Group A or Escort Cosworth, to be honest. I think the stance and the lower wing actually really makes it look very aggressive and purposeful.
Yeah, it's certainly mean looking for sure. I think we've to drop the front of it down. It's literally only came in the last few weeks, and they were that worried about damaging the front bumper. They jacked the front of it up, so we'll drop it back down and leave it looking nice and mean. But beautiful car and in stunning condition. The next 2 cars, I suppose we talk about the 2 together, are 2 Subaru Legacies. The first one we're looking at here is Colin McRae's. What we would remember the Rothmans car, without Rothmans actually being on the side of it. This car won the Circuit of Ireland in '91 with Colin. Again, it came from Norway a couple of years ago, beautifully restored. We drove it, my son was driving it down in Westport with one of the sponsors, and surprisingly fast. It really, really goes. But very basic when you look at the Legacies. You have no anti-lag, you have no fancy diffs or anything. You just get in, you drive it, but a lot of power. They obviously had a big restrictor back then. I don't know. I think that was the 40mm restrictor. Then went to 38. But it really can shift. And next to that is Richard Burns's K44 LNX, the car that he won the British Championship in '93. And again, I suppose having 2 cars, Colin and Richard, both British champions, both world champions, and I have the 2 cars sitting side by side. It's nobody else can say they have them because they're here. And that's what makes it special. And both in stunning condition. Sitting in between them actually is a Boxer engine on display on a stand. That is the engine that Carlos Sainz won the Monte Carlo rally in '95. It's the from the L555 REP car, and again, whereas there's a lot of bits that are on it that are new, it is the actual engine, Grain Sweet built that engine for us for display purposes, and authenticated as that is the engine. The number is still on the block. So again, something a little bit different, but it's that's the power unit that gave Carlos a Monty win. The car that I've had for a long time now is the Metro 6R4, the Belga livery car. We rebuilt this to full Group B specification, which was an upgrade on the engine back to 3 litre international, and upgrade to the heavy duty gearbox and this. Colin McRae actually drove this car in the past, but they were definitely heroes. I asked Jimmy McRae how they could drive a car like this for 5 days in the Circuit of Ireland. I asked him, he must have been in the gym all the time, but he said no, it was a case of get in and drive, but they're challenging to drive for sure. It really is a handful, but very iconic, and one that I wouldn't like to part with. Next to that is the P2000 Subaru. We spent a lot of time restoring this car. It took probably 3-4 years to restore it. It was in really, really bad shape when we got it. And I went a little bit different. I put it back into the Andrea Gini colours. Andrea used this car, I think it was 22 Motorsport that were running the car. It was a pro car, and I didn't want a blue Subaru with the treble 5 livery. I wanted something a little bit different, and I think it stands out. I do have a collector in Italy that's trying to convince me it'd be better in his collection than mine, but you never know. So, and finally in this room we have Carlos Sainz's Safari car from '91. This car has only done 2 rallies, 2 safaris. I think it might have been used as a recce car in '93. That car actually sat in a shed in Donegal town for 20 years.
That's really
one of the ex-TTE engineers had convinced Ove Anderson to give him the car, and it was ready for the scrapper. They were actually going to crush this car, and he convinced them to give it to him, and they restored it in TTE before it came back to Ireland. And it had a refresh with Norman Burns, who's TTE as well, about 3 years ago. But it's really, really special car, very, very authentic. Everything is in it, from the extender fuel tanks to the water bottles. There's even a winch in behind the driver's seat there in case they got stuck. We've all the history on that car, and I drove it one day up the road, and wow, it can go. 40 mil restrictor, no lag. It's a beast, But nice to have that with the bulb bars and the side lamps and everything. It's
something about a Safari spec at times, isn't there?
Yeah. So, and then as you see around the walls, we've a lot of different memorabilia. One thing there over in the corner is the BIF Circuit of Ireland trophy. That is the actual trophy that Jimmy McRae, David Llewellyn and Colin McRae won when BIF were the sponsors, and again, lovely thing to have, and you can see all the pictures behind it of the drivers holding the trophy, and having Colin's car that won the rally as well, so it just ties the whole thing together, So, and again, you see some of the race suits. You've there Carlos Sainz, Bertie Fisher, you've Alistair McRae, you have another, that's a Rory Kennedy suit, Jimmy McRae, Rothman's suit, you've Ari Vatman suit from when there's the Ford, you have another Bertie suit, you have a Michelin Pilot one, Make, as we said, with Damien Faulkner's there, Tapio Lakinens, Austin Fraser, Martin Rowe, you think Mark Higgins, Brian Thomas, Neil Weirden. There's just so much stuff here, and thousands of pictures. If we look at the trophy display, again, we have a lot of trophies of significance. As I said earlier, with Bertie's first trophy from Donegal, with some of his championship trophies. Martin Rowe's British Championship trophy from when he won in the McGann. Sitting beside it there, you see Sebastian Ogier Red Bull helmet from when he was at Volkswagen. One of Austin Fraser's helmets from, must have been in the 70s. You've actually a little pair of Austin's race boots that were always kept as spares. And even you see the whole bottle of champagne that was given to me by Matt Doherty. That was the bottle of champagne that Jimmy McRae had sprayed across his car in 1980 when he won the Donegal Rally. You know, so
incredible.
All these little bits add to the story. We have again drawers and drawers of thousands and thousands of photographs, which people root through and get great enjoyment out of finding their own heroes and themselves at times if they're in there, you know.
And can I ask you, how was it reached this point? Like, did you always intend on, you know, having something like this, or did you want to start collecting a car here and there that you know meant something to you that you found special? How did it evolve to this point?
I don't know.
Get out of control, maybe.
There wasn't a master plan. I've been collecting cars for quite some time. I wanted to build a display, not for the public, more just to have cars nicely displayed. We built a racetrack here some years ago. We have a gravel track out the back of the facility with a grandstand up there and with buggies, and we do a bit of fooling around. And we used to have horses here which are long gone, and just thought I'd repurpose the place and started to build on and build some more. And yeah, and then I was very, very fortunate. I have some really, really good friends that are equally as invested in the project with me, you know, and I suppose carry a lot of the burden in terms of the prep and the I suppose putting together the catalogues of all the different programs and pictures, and yeah, so it's a bit of a team effort, and we all get pleasure from it.
There's clearly a lot of time and love invested in it. And so before we finish up then, what's next? How do we build from here?
Well, I don't know. There are plans to add another few features for sure. I think increasing the quality of the collection is what we're probably minded to do, as opposed to quantity. You know, we really want to have one of the best collections in Europe if we can. One car we've missing from the 17 era is the Hyundai. Working to see if we can secure that. If we do, we definitively will be the only collection in the world with all four marks under the one roof. So there's something like that is kind of a driver. You know, it's not life or death, but it'll be certainly nice to do that. And again, to have open days to get people here to enjoy it. That's why we've done it. You know, but it is for enthusiasts. We're going to have a BRC reunion here at some time in the future, where the drivers from that mid-90s era will come together for a weekend and hopefully compete against each other at the track and relive some of the stories from then. And we've been in touch with nearly all the drivers, and they're all up for it. It's just a matter of trying to coordinate. That's the difficult bit.
And so before we finish up, what if you had to choose one specific car from a specific event that holds, you know, something special to you that you could add to this collection right now, or that you think would be the ultimate addition? What would that be? Or is that too hard a question to answer?
Well, it's not. No, there's no one particular car that I really, really would want, you know. And certainly it'd be nice to have one of the big Group B cars, whether an Audi or an S4. That, but the money they command today is very, very significant. No, I think we're happy. We'd certainly like to get a Bertie Fisher car, for sure. And we've been chasing that one. Bertie, obviously, I think you can credit both himself and Austin for really changing the face of Irish rallying. You know, other countries certainly didn't follow in the same way as Ireland did. Bertie went to Pro Drive along with Austin, and they started to, when they got their BMWs, that was the start of being, I suppose, toe-to-toe with the guys that were in the World Championship, albeit a year or two later they were in the best cars, and if you wanted to compete you had to follow them, and so many did, and that's why we had such a wonderful sport here.
Thank you, Donagh. Thank you so much for your time and having us here. It's been amazing to see the collection, and best of luck at Clarny Historic next weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Donagh.
Well, Killian, I must say I'm more than a little bit envious. Who'd have thought one of the world's finest collections and assortments of rally cars would be tucked away in a wee corner in Northwest Ireland? It looked like you had one heck of a day there. Was it as good as it sounded?
Yeah, and probably a bit better, Jamie, to be honest, and very. I know you must be somewhat you said it. You're more than a bit envious, I'm sure. Yeah, and it was it was disappointing that you couldn't be there, but I'm sure maybe we can perhaps ask Donagh to have us back again sometime. Yeah, I don't think I could really do it justice. I hope I did, and so it's probably not the best medium to talk about it. Just going through it on a podcast. Visually, it's an experience, really. It's not. I was thinking about it the other day. Calling it just a collection of cars and memorabilia would almost do it an injustice. Yeah. It is an experience as an overall. It's easy to fire a lot of cars into a shed, regardless of their provenance and history, and go, there's a nice collection of cars. It's so much more than that. And the memorabilia as well to back it all up. And I think Donagh stressed it a few times. It's not all about the cars, and it certainly shouldn't be, because it's about the stories of the people behind them.
Absolutely.
As well.
And I think that's. I mean, it would be hard pressed to make it not brilliant anyway. But the idea that the stress that he puts on the memorabilia really does lift it, from what I can see, because it. I mean, not only does it show his passion coming through clear like a bell, it's just the breadth and depth of it. I mean, the half sprayed bottle of champagne, the dizzying assortment of driver helmets and overalls. It's just staggering. And I mean, it speaks to one man's incredible passion for our sport, and the fact that he appears to take such joy in presenting it to fellow motorsport rally people, and is so generous with his time and his cars, is just wonderful.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was superb, and it lends so much more credence to the whole thing, because ultimately, we can admire rally cars from an engineering and design perspective and the way they look and the sound they make, but ultimately, the reason we really love them is the exploits of the people who built them, ran them, and crewed them, and that's probably the best thing about being up at Stables, is that part of it is there too, and they're all like genuine race suits from the real, from the genuine people who were involved and correctly arrayed with the relevant vehicles, and it's that attention to detail, because that builds up that kind of more sense of awe and wonder that we got throughout the day, and we were there 3 hours or so. Excuse me, and I think I mentioned it in the bit I recorded with Donagh, like when we sat into Donagh Kelly's car. And I should stress as well, like when we got there, the welcome was amazing, because he just goes, yeah, knock yourselves out, sit away into these things, and it's like, what do you mean it's not behind a velvet rope? You can just open it and sit into it, and even still very hesitant to do so, because that's the way your brain operates when you're in somewhere like that, in this kind of museum setting almost. But sitting into the late great Donagh Kelly's S12B in the Donegal room, and on the co-driver's seat was the Pace Notes book from its last victory.
29. Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So it's those things, and then obviously array of suits and stuff around it to match the cars. Like that really makes it so much more special. That that you're not just admiring a vehicle or a piece of engineering in front of you, but you're admiring the story behind it, and it makes you reflect on that. And I'm certainly there's plenty of stuff in there that I'm not old enough to really remember being out on the stages, and that my recollections of are more from reading about or watching videos online. But certainly that particular car, I was always a big fan of an S12. Me and I loved watching Manus in that car, and I did many times. So being able to sit in it and then seeing that next to me as well, like you get that sense of attachment to the whole thing, and it was really something, And I'm probably not eloquent enough to give it enough justice, as I said.
You're doing yourself a disservice there. I mean, I think the thing that really comes through, like I said, is just how welcome he is. The lack of velvet ropes, as you say, really does. I mean, I was off doing something incredibly mundane on a house and decorating and stuff when you were doing this, and all I know is seeing various updates of you sitting in, Billy Coleman Stratos, Manus Kelly's Impreza. It was both heartening and very frustrating not being there.
Yeah, I was unsure just of how much to tell or share, because this is kind of mean now. You're just teasing the man. So yeah, I will say on that Stratus front, don't really know how people campaign those in the day. I'm not a big person. I'm about 5'8", maybe, or something like that. Although I used to add on a couple of inches when I was on dating sites back in the day. But I sat into that car and my head was touching the roof, and that's without a helmet.
I mean, I've heard stories about Bjorn Waldegard back in the day having to have the top. How do I say what I'm about to say without causing mirths of smutty laughter? Having to have the top inch of his helmet shaved off to be able to sit in comfortably, which may or may not be true, but I can kind of believe, given how laissez-faire most things were back then.
Oh yeah, I mean it's believable for sure, and certainly having sat in the thing, yeah, I could see why maybe, and there was a more relaxed view to.
So what you're saying
safety.
is me at 6'4" is going to struggle. When I win the lottery, there's going to be an issue.
I think you'll be under a bit of pressure there. Yeah, you might have to get like a modified door and roof.
Yeah.
A
I
bit
couldn't
of a
do
bubble.
that. I couldn't do that. I'd have to have the surgery to ruin my ankles or
You could
something.
surely
I'm not ruin the Stratos.
could surely take a few inches out of your shins and have your ankles start just below your knee or something. And I still managed to absolutely mangle myself getting in and out of it as well. With great.
There's no graceful way of entering or exiting a Stratos, is there?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And I just, as someone that competes very occasionally, and you think about it a little bit different, and I'm going, just on the road sections, like there's nowhere to put your helmets. You're like the co-driver probably can't see because he's got two helmets sitting on his lap. What on the road section between stages and those kind of little, the things that make something a bit more livable with. And when you're spending a weekend and thing, never mind doing a 5-day Circuit of Ireland or something,
or even
back
a
in the day.
safari. I mean,
yeah.
And it must have been even more incongruous back then when every other Group 4 rally car was a saloon. A modified saloon, because obviously the Stratus being the first purpose-built rally car, it's one of those cars that I think its uniqueness and its appearance is slightly dulled by the passage of time and what we've seen since, because we've had quite a few pointy rally cars, but that looked like nothing else, circa 1975.
No, and still to this day as well, really, doesn't it? It still stands out amongst even the most extreme bits of kit we've had since. And still such a clean design, because it's not, it's a very extreme looking thing, but not because it's had extreme things added to it, that we've bewinged it, and there's big spoilers and big vents and grills and, extra aero. It's the way that, that's the way the road car looked as well.
And proof positive to that is, I think that, and I'm slightly going away from rallying here, the Group 5 turbocharged ones they ran in Touring Car Championship in the same period looked slightly less arresting, despite having the big wings and other stuff. It's still
slightly spoiled the look a little bit.
But so I honestly, mate, what a guy, what a collection. And you're right, experience does seem to be the word, at the risk of sounding, wanky. It does sound like a completely immersive experience and a fitting tribute to some amazing rally cars, such as the Legacies. I must admit, these are the two that initially drew me, just because, I mean, the ultimate Group A 3-box saloon with big turbos, no restrictors to speak of.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, big fan of that myself. I mean, I suppose to tell you a bit, when we recorded the kind of chat as we went through, at the end of our time there, I guess. So I had a couple of hours to kind of walk around and pick my jaw off the floor and stuff. But when we got there, he showed us the Donegal room first, which was home to the Stratos and the S12, and the wall covered in photographs and the snap-on toolboxes full of programs and whatnot, and the 95 trophy, Bertie Fisher's trophy, which has been turned into a lamp, and sits kind of almost out of the way in the corner, and you just kind of, being crystal as well, it doesn't really leak out. You kind of have to snatch at it as you go past and say, "Oh, hang on a sec."
I mean, that already speaks to the wealth of stuff that's in there. That something of that significance could be something that your eye only falls on after a sustained period. Speaks to a huge amount about the amount of and the quality of memorabilia.
Oh, I mean, look, in that Donegal room alone, which I guess we didn't even give it that much time to on the chat, I guess, because I mean, we would have had to start opening drawers and pulling out magazines and programs and stuff, which I don't know how suitable a podcast is for that kind of thing. But I mean, I had a look at that, but you could, if you wanted to cover all that stuff just in that room, like that's a day. You could spend it, and there's thousands of photographs on the wall in that room, all from that event, and just even to walk around and take that in would take a lot of time to fully soak it in. But yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. You said it.
Looks incredible.
But when we went into the main hall, I mean, calling it a shed would really be
doing it a disservice.
Yeah. When you come in the door, those are the two cars you're facing. And for me, like, as I was always a Subaru fan. I've owned a Legacy, I've owned an Impreza. The cars I really associate with drawing me into love of rallying, like many, being an age that I am. I said it when we went in. I was like, these two are royalty for me. Like, at those two particular cars as well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, let's be fair. Sod what I said about the Legacy. Let's go to Manus's Impreza. I mean, it must be almost a difficult car to view now, because it's only seems like 2 minutes ago since that awful day in 2019. Very raw, I imagine, for everyone, even slightly involved. And the very fact that his notes are there from the final win, I mean, that's poignant to the edge of to the nth degree. Incredible stuff, and he's so well plugged in to the Irish motorsport community, or the rallying community.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I knew that car was there, but at the risk of sounding too emotional about it, I did get a little bit emotional seeing it, because it's a car I'd watched a lot and watched his exploits in, and I was like the S12, who doesn't? But that car is very special, and when Manus passed, and maybe this isn't the best time to talk about it, but it's one of those ones where you remember, if you're in that kind of community, you remember, one of those things where you remember where you were and when you found out and how you found out and how you felt at the time. So certainly, what affected the car, but then just seeing that book of pace notes, because I sat in and I was holding the wheel and I was like, wow, and and I was kind of taken away a bit about it, kind of admiring the driving position and how the controls were laid out for a second, and then I looked and saw that there, and it took on something else a little bit,
There is something very tangible about pace notes, isn't it? It's the fact that they're written, the fact they're from the pen of the crew in question, and of course they're sort of the key, or one of the keys to speed and performance. It's more than the sum of its total. It's not just a book of squiggles and
Yeah.
it's everything, you know.
Yeah, very personalized thing because everyone's will be like. Well,
Yes.
they were event notes, or rather Killian Duffy's on the pace notes, but obviously everyone will make their own adjustments and notes inside that, and certain highlighted things, and you know, changes and everything, and their own style of making adjustments in it. So it was very raw. Um, to see that, and rather special, and just and to have it there, and again, you must really again give them more respect, because it was just, oh, this thing isn't open to the public where someone can come in and manhandle it or whatever, but not that any old yob can come in and start leafing through it and dog earing it, but it was left there for us,
Yeah.
and it was part
Trust.
of that the trust was great, and that that he did put that trust in us and the others that visit, but it's still very, very nice touch to see it there. It makes you sit back and think a little bit more about why you're there and what you're sitting in, and what that car and driver and co-driver did in it. As I say, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's not just a car collection. Calling
It's
it such would be wrong.
they're almost, and again, I'm going to sort of skate towards the melodramatic here, but they're almost low-key time machines when you sit in a rally car, especially if it's an ex-works rally car, like, or a car that has the providence of that. You're in the same seat, probably soaked with the same person's sweat and everything else. It's still, I know I felt it when I've been lucky enough to sit in, I don't know, the L555 BAT or whatever. It's like, it's the real McCoy. It's just the things that were touched. So probably not the correct medium for a purely audio podcast, but we'll make do.
Yeah,
Until we
hopefully
invent-
someone will get some idea, and it might encourage people to appreciate those things when they do get to experience them. Not that they need any help, I guess. But the legacies were very similar. Then, to go back to those.
I love the fact
So,
he's got both. I love the fact he's got both. I mean, and that comes across as well in what he said. The fact that
yeah,
there's two there, and yeah. Sorry, go on.
and because there's two there, they can't be anywhere else. And I guess, but they pair well. It's not just because it's Burns and McRae, although that obviously is
You wouldn't need
plenty
a better
reason in
reason.
itself. But it's plenty reason in itself. But I suppose it's the start of. I suppose it lines up very well with both drivers anyway to have legacies there. Because I don't know if Donagh had looked for like other cars from those guys' early days, but you could say, all right, there's a Nova, to look like, or Peugeot.
That's quite good. A Peugeot moment there.
There you go. Yeah. Mind you, I'm sure Collins Nova is in Lanarkshire anyway, and I'm sure
it is.
It won't leave.
It's a replica. It's
okay, yeah.
It's the real one got recycled into someone else's. I think Jason Lepley had it for a brief while at some point. It's another Nova Sport.
But they're a nice line to trace through both drivers' careers in Subarus and like their early days at a national level as well. And legacies are cool as fuck. Anyway.
And the fact that they both started in the same legacy RS or the same car is quite an. If you were gonna do a film of these two, then your average director might call that out as being a bit too obvious. It's kind of it's too good. But yeah, I mean, I as a 30-something British rally fan who came of age watching rallying in the 90s, with a dad who was Colin McRae obsessed and me who liked them both. It's kind of it's wonderful seeing them both. It's cars that saw plenty of legacies rallying, but never those two, driven by those two. And just seeing them both there, incredible. So well displayed as well.
Very well displayed, and again, the nice touches, like in the back of the McRae Circuit of Ireland car, you've got the two helmets in the Rotman's colours with Colin's name and Derek's name. On the side, the headsets are hanging over the mirror. and I sat into that car, and again, it was like it was so tactile, and you're going, this was where Colin McRae sat, and you don't get to say that much,
Yeah.
and
Young, wild Colin McRae.
yeah, yeah, and for I was telling my girlfriend about it when we got home, and she knows like how that would appeal to me, but you can see it doesn't quite register on the same level, as one of us would, and people who listen to this. Um, to say that you sat in that seat and you're looking at I always love the Legacy dash more so than I love like the Impreza dashes, because the red obviously stands out, and the stack gauges. It's really cool, and you're looking at that.
Yeah, it's not ergonomic, is it? Let's face it, the Legacy RS dashboard layout.
It doesn't detract from it though, does it?
No, I mean, no, quite the opposite.
Yeah. And then obviously, and Richard Burns' car in frankly the better livery, really, the LNX livery.
Stop there.
Well, I know you don't like your Rotman's livery anyway.
I don't like my Rotman's livery. No. But I'm not. Yeah.
I think on a Legacy though, I'd have the LNX. Well, I'd have the old. Well, as our logo, the old
disgusting pink. Yeah.
The 90s goalkeeper jersey, as you call
it. The away kit. Yeah. It has to be the away kit, because no way is the home kit going to be that pink. It's Bayern Munich's away kit circa 1993.
Yeah.
Which I have no idea what it looks like with away.
Probably similar. Yeah. So yeah, both two very iconic cars, and as I said, royalty was the first thing I said about them, was that they're royalty, and obviously the way they were displayed, and there's a kind of a light and sound show that accompanies it when you go into the main hall, which I don't actually want to go into too much detail about, I guess.
That's the thing we can't do justice to, because and obviously I didn't get the full experience with the videos, but if anyone listening to this does get a chance, as I hope I do, to go, it looks incredible. The way, well, I'm just going to tread on your toes by telling exactly what I wouldn't do, but the fact that the way that each car is presented is incredible.
Yeah, and I'd spoken to people who'd been up there before I went, and in fairness, what was very good, each of them didn't give anything away, just said, you're going to love it, it's really good, but it's way better than you think it will be. And I know, again, I said, I was very much the thing. I said, yeah, well, it's going to be a nice collection of cars, isn't it? I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a load of cars that I like and whatever. And as I said, it's really not. And so with the presentation, then really, really awestruck, in that main hall when that all kicked off. Really, and those are the first two you see. Yeah, oh yeah, because it's all darkness and you come in, and then those, well, they weren't lit up right away, but I could see the silhouette, and then everything else started to be unveiled, as it were.
I love Donagh Kelly's F2 Kit Carper version, and that again shines through in the interview. And again, it's another thing that if anyone watching this will have to have a wee Google to look at some photos, because it's incredible. I mean, just the way the Megane sits so perfectly between the Astra and the Mark IV Golf, which is always, to me, I think the Mark IV is the forgotten kit car. Well, if we're excluding the Hyundai maybe, but when someone says Golf kit car,
you think of the yellow Mark III, the Steve Black car.
Another 90s away goalie kit colour livery as well.
Yeah, but and a properly like 90s football team sponsor as well with Sony, because it's the kind of thing that would adorn the front of a football kit in the mid to late 90s as well.
But the Providence, the ex Martin Rowe, the fact it's an ex Martin Rowe Megane is incredible. The fact it's a Manx Martin Rowe Megane as well.
Mm-hmm.
Martin being a Manxman, I'm 99% sure. Just an awesome car, and the fact that he has such a strong affiliation for that particular era completely chimes with me.
Yeah, actually, I was almost surprised at that. Like, and again, because obviously he had a couple of those cars out in the Deja Vu West earlier in the year, so I knew there was stuff of that ilk there, because obviously Higgins came over and drove the Elmira for Deja Vu West, and that Ibiza was out for that as well. And forgive my poor recall, I can't remember who drove that weekend, but when he started, and obviously we spoke throughout today, and he did keep reiterating that he really had such a keen interest and draw for that era of BRC, which, to be fair, is peak BRC, as we've mentioned before. I don't think you'll find many to argue with that.
Oh, that's a can of worms there.
But
I'm not putting my name above that.
but yeah, I mean that those cars feature so strongly in that. Oh, I'm searching for the word, in that company. Um, when you have, and we'll talk about it, so but there's World Rally Finland winning cars, and full blown WRC efforts, and those legacies, and people may not think about having that collection of BRC kit cars feature so strongly and so importantly in a
Yeah.
company like that. And certainly for me, they really jumped out, and the preparation and the restoration and the presentation of all of those was equal to and stronger than it's their brothers inside there, as it were.
Well, as he was saying about the origin story of how he got his hands on the Almira and the Mark IV Golf, in terms of the how well they've been prepared, restored, and everything else. I think one of the reasons they're so special is that, or at least one of the reasons they're now so special, is the fact that there's no way that, I don't know, a championship winning Zara WRC or an ex-McRae focused WRC isn't or wasn't going to be cherished and held up as a car to hold on to and be cherished when it's getting on a bit. Whereas these cars, there's nothing that dates quicker than yesterday's racer rally car. Yeah, and I vividly remember, same as I remember, watching Super Tourers being for sale for relative peanuts. There was nowhere to use them, and for a long while, F2 cars were just quite cool, quite niche, old hat, ex-works rally cars, and it's more remarkable, even all the more remarkable, that someone has taken the time to amass such an assortment of really, really consequential, important, impeccably kept ones.
Certainly someone who wasn't, not quite involved at the time. Like Donagh would have been rallying around that time, but not to the level he ended up doing. But he isn't from the UK. Yeah. He wasn't around that as such. That they spoke to him so highly, and it's another part of what makes the Stables Centre so great, is that there's a lot of stuff isn't very obvious. You spoke about, like, a Colin Focus or whatever, and people trying, obviously, Group B stuff is going for insane money now, and I'm sure a Colin Focus is all very, and those are, the obvious choices. Not that that's a bad thing, I'm sure you'd have one if you could have one. But that they're there for personal reasons and almost regarded higher than some of the rest.
And there's no reason there shouldn't be, let's face it, it's an engineering tour de force at a time when it was at the bleeding edge of everything, big screaming 2 liters, trick diffs. It's just awesome.
And they almost shouldn't be remembered as well, because not that they should be forgotten, but in terms of, if you look at every other car that was up there, for just to take examples that are in front of us, that F2 kit cars didn't enjoy kind of privateer, running long after.
The very things that made them so special meant that they were never really suitable for any privateer use, were they?
No, they were, like, when their time was done, they were done when they weren't works cars, really, more or less.
Especially the French ones, which were built in infinitesimally small numbers and highly strung beasts,
Yeah, it's not like over here, obviously, we had, X-Works 2-liter WRC cars competing for years and years at a very high level, and a lot of them, I was looking at the entry for the Circuit of Kerry 2005 the other day, as you do, like, and there was more WRC cars in that entry than there is on a current WRC round entry, then, but and not a single F2 car or whatever, they didn't continue in that way. They didn't go to their retirement home national championships or regional championships like a lot of X-Works cars or Group A cars enjoyed.
It's amazing what you don't appreciate. I went to the 90, well, various network queues, but 98, 97, 98, and 99. I think 99 network queue was a peak for 2-litre F2 stuff. And yeah, I appreciate it, but it was just some really screaming two-wheel drive manufacturer side projects, and it's wild. And maybe it's also because, being mud and gravel, it wasn't quite their natural habitat. They didn't look quite as gnarly.
Which always gets me about those cars as well. Being the BRC always like Irish rallying, obviously very tarmac,
cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and then like the British Championship being so gravel focused that they would choose to have these particular cars. Kind of seems a little bit wrong when you look back on it.
Well, we're at the risk of segueing. It's the idea of trying to rein in costs, isn't it? In the early 90s, in the late or the Group A era. But I digress. But an incredible assortment, and I've got the a screen grab of the Mark IV Astra and the Megane in front of me, and it's just incredible. Although I can't help but sit looking and remembering how demure looking the Astra looks. It's for a kit car, it's such an understated looking thing. It's like, and it probably doesn't help because the fact that I remember watching the touring cars at the same time and seeing Mark IV Astra coupes, which looked to all intents and purposes almost the same.
They were the longer coupes, weren't they?
Same livery, same front end,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that Astra, when you compare it to the Golf there, because the Golf looks so swollen and the arches seem to stand out so much more on it and seems to be way more squat and wide. The Astra just kind of, it looks like it's just like a livery almost or whatever. Until you look at the skid plate on it, which is like in inches thick. Crawl underneath that, and like the thickness of the skid plate on the front of that thing was very impressive.
I remember, I don't mean to name drop, I remember interviewing John Cleland when I was working at a car magazine many years ago, and he said, talking about RML, Ray Malek, at saying you could always tell an RML car when you slammed the door because it made a proper thick thunk sound. Any RML built car was, sacrificed lightweight perhaps for outright capability and reliability.
Was it a better thunk than a road-going Astra?
No, he was on about in the previous Cavaliers we were on about, and it forgets me now who built the early Mark III Cavalier touring cars. Someone else will come and tell me now and correct me. I can't remember. Maybe 888. What was your favourite car there?
Oh, that is difficult. I think if you'd asked me, if you gave me the list of cars before I went up, and I didn't know what was there, I knew some of what was there, and you asked me, I probably would have found it very hard to choose between the S12B and the Legacy. But having been there, I think the Megane kind of won it for me, to be honest.
It's the Megane I'm looking at now.
Yeah. It's Sophie's choice, but yeah, definitely struck me. And the Golf, the Mark IV Golf and the Megane were ones I kept going back to, to the point where even the Metro 6 or 4, I actually feel like I didn't actually have a good, really close, or spend a lot of time at.
And in the colours of previous Rally DNA debutant Mark Dewey.
Yes, recorded from a restaurant kitchen.
Yes, with his wife frantically bashing pots and pans.
And a dog.
Incredible car. I mean, they fucking hell, they all are. I'll tell you one thing that that conversation made me reappraise the the joy of the Citroen C3 WRC's derriere. He's right. You know, Donagh Kelly's right. The rear end of the C3 WRC is a delightful thing. The front less so, but
yeah, overall, I think I'm it's very livery dependent, that
Yep.
car. But you know, when it was sitting next to the Yaris, you'd think that the Yaris would draw all of your attention away from it, that it would get almost lost. And obviously the Fiesta is probably the best looking of that generation of cars overall in terms of pure looks. And then the Yaris is just so extreme that obviously that wins a load of cool points as well.
the Yaris wins the Group B points because that's the one that when it first saw it, I was like, "Holy Christ, we are now in, 1982 territory here."
Yeah, we can probably all remember watching the initial testing videos of that car going, fuck, okay, yeah, this is different. But that Citroen in that anniversary or heritage, and it was the Citroen anniversary or heritage livery, whatever they
it gets a
called
bit
it.
confusing because the Citroen centenary livery is 2019, but I think that one isn't that a 2020 car?
Well, no, they were gone. They were gone in 2020. Yeah, so it's 19. Yeah,
because we didn't get the really cool the final Evo test version of the C3 WRC that was being tested in late 2019 had a very different front end, and that looked incredible. Not that looks should judge it, I think, at the barometer for whether a cool rally car or not, but
No, but it's always worth pointing out, isn't it? Because the usual Citroen livery that we associate to C3 with wasn't that great. That centenary one really worked to the car. Even and that one was in gravel spec as well, which traditionally doesn't always mean it's the best looking of the specs, because obviously everything looks better lower on bigger wheels as a rule of thumb.
It's
really
the most
smart.
alien looking of the quartet of final WRC cars. There's some hackneyed old thing about people buy cars that look like people and have a face. And C3 WRC or otherwise has no face.
I was going to say it had no face. Yeah,
the headlights where your mind would perhaps place eyes are air vents, and the headlights are little slits. It's a very odd thing, but it's purposeful. It's brutal. One hell of a bit of kit, and let's face it, one hell of a collection. I mean, I've seldom wanted a man I've never met to buy a car I'll never see or drive more in my life than Donagh to get an i20 WRC.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's staring in the face now. You're kind of going, it has to be completed, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. You need the set, don't you? That's it.
Yeah.
But we've talked before about this. It staggers me, and I guarantee every single person listening to this will feel the same way. It floors me that these cars are now museum pieces, are now retired. That's it. It's done. It's like, fuck. Like, I swear it was 30 seconds ago that I was refreshing with the WRC information page to learn about these new for 2017 big aero WRC cars with the really piss poor drawing that the WRC did, which turned out to be kind of Fiesta based with like just a huge rear wing in lime green and black. And of course the other car, the ex Ogier Fiesta, as you said, probably the best looking. Even if it's the one that maybe it's familiarity, I swear I've seen it more. But it looks incredible. Its provenance is an ex-OJ car, and what that means as well. The fact, it's easy to forget how big a deal it was when Malcolm, managed to attract Sebastian for 2017, 2018, and of course the fact that he won. It's incredible.
Are people, just as we're recording this literally on the day that Tanek's been announced with M Sport, do we do a quick digress to say, are people hoping for a similar repeat? Is that going to be a similar situation? Not to do current affairs, which we don't do.
No. I'm just trying to work out how to I would like nothing more. I would be, well, I mean, Selden would make me happier than to see him duff everyone, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think M Sport's strength is its ability to develop a car to a new regulation set, or perhaps the way it can minimize its disadvantage of being very poorly funded compared to its competitors is by putting all its eggs in the development basket and developing a car to a new regulation set, coming out the blocks and smashing it, like it did in 2017. And I fear that, despite the Puma's obvious decent pace and potential, we've missed that. If it was going to happen, it would have done. And I suspect that it probably could be turned into a winner if it was Ford M Sport as opposed to M Sport Ford, and the amount of money being spent by FOMOCO was correspondingly vast, then you could develop it into a winner. But my cynical brain says that that's what's going to happen. But please prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong.
Yeah, look, certainly the championship is a better place with Tanak in it, wrestling a car around in the way that he can. But yeah, I'd be inclined to agree with you on all points there.
Oh, that was easy.
Yeah. Don't want to go too much more into that. Yes.
But it's incredible seeing that same Red Bull sponsored 2017 Fiesta WRC. Not, is it 2017? 2018?
2018. Yeah.
2018 at Deja Vu West earlier this year. I'm sure we've all seen the same photo as well. It just looks mind-blowing seeing it in classic Irish rally countryside. A loch in the background, rolling hills, overcast clouds, big hills, and
narrow roads.
Yeah, filthy tarmac, and a rally car that really, if there was any justice in the world, we'd have seen competing hammer and tongs on that road set, in that car.
Yeah, I mean, those images from Deja Vu, of which there are many great ones, and we did say it when we were there, it's a tease, isn't it? You just
was it
to see it on those roads.
It's Rally Replay who did that. Was it Adam at Rally Replay who took that photo? It's just incredible. Yeah. Reminds me of the excitement of back in 2008 for Rally Island, and I'm still staggered that it didn't, well, not staggered because we know the reasons why, but it's a shame it didn't take root and supplant, and Rally Island hasn't been a fixture of the WRC ever since. I think and I'm definitely digressing here, but it's probably the fact that it was a bad time in the history of the WRC in terms of everything in a state of flux, all the teams deciding to retreat. Money was all important, and money was not something that everyone had or anyone had.
Yeah, it coincided with the global recession and whatnot.
Yeah. The Celtic Tiger getting its clothes clipped.
As much as you would love to see or would have loved to have seen those spec cars competing in work skies, or even now in privateer hands, which is obviously a very different proposition. They're so big and so wide and have so much aero that you would worry at the kind of level of aero destruction that would be wreaked on those cars on those roads. But I'd still want to see it.
You say 150k for a full carbon aero package
for the Aris? Yeah,
the Aris, yeah.
And they were always the ones, admittedly, that you always heard the tales of the amount of money that was being stacked up in the skip at the back of the service park, basically, of how much. And it's so fragile. Like if you've ever placed your hand on any of those
Rally Legend, we were prodding a Hyundai WRC car and just it's nothing. It's
because even though it's carbon, and we've been brought up to the carbon is really strong and it's really light or whatever, and it is when it's used in a certain way, but just because there's loads of carbon hanging off here, it will disintegrate like styrofoam if it comes into contact with something.
There's a reason that you don't go around stamping on splitters.
Yeah. So you can well believe, I mean, somebody somewhere. Well, I guess there's an accountant in each one of the works teams that knows exactly how much was spent replacing aero on rallies over from 2017 to 2020.
Can you imagine the Excel spreadsheet for the self-calculating formula for Yaris WRC splitters between 2017 and 2021 that just adds up? Big cut, delete.
Yeah. Yeah. They're lucky they don't have them now with the Pirelli disintegrating tires, but yeah, even more so.
On the Polar Extreme, and I dare say to close things off, we'll go to the car that seemed to be a bit forgotten about, relatively speaking, the Group A Celica ST165, which is wild when you think it's Carlos Sainz. It's the car that showed that you could beat Lancia in Group A, and it's Safari, which is always cool. What was that like? Cool car to look around.
Really cool. I mean, yeah, you and I, not necessarily on this podcast, but I've certainly spoken at length about the Celica 165, and it is the forgotten Celica, really. Not deservingly by any means. But yeah, really cool. Look, Safari stuff is always gets another grade of cool added onto it. And what really struck me about that, again, you see Safari stuff in photographs, and you see the big bars and the raised ride height and the things like that added onto them, and they look
Big
so much
full
more
tags.
rugged and tough. Then up close was the things like the jack, big high lift jack just inside the driver's door behind the seat.
You said there was a
and
winch behind the co-driver's seat or something as well.
Yeah, and but what struck me was where I was looking at it going, how the fuck, like, because of where the fuel cell was, and obviously the bigger Safari tank, there's two spare wheels behind the driver's and co-driver's seats, and between those spare wheels and where you open the rear hatch is the fuel cell. So to get at those wheels, you'd have to be almost legs waving in the air over the tail lights, trying to take
co-driver's position. That's it. You're guaranteed. That's the poor bugger who's going to have to get in there in sweltering 60-degree Kenyan heat.
Yeah, so kind of looking at the logistics of how you're going to even. No, I know changing a tire on Safari really isn't the penalty that it would seem on a normal rally, because everyone's going to be doing it anyway at some point. But it's kind of like, these are a long way away from where you open the hack, and then having to lug them out over the top of the fuel cell and whatnot. Really cool car, and obviously, as he said, that car was meant to be crushed.
Yeah. I like the fact that, anyone who's followed the gravel crew for any length of time will know that I like this car, because the fact that TTE realized it didn't have enough heat going in to the engine bay, so they put the air intakes beneath the headlights, which then Toyota in Japan thought was abhorrent, and filled in and designed neat little blanks to perfectly fill, and thus caused massive overheating. And the early ones ran with the bonnet slightly ajar, and this one appears to have one of those weird, it must have been Safari or Hot Rally specific lamp pods with the sort of aerofoil above the Repsol blanking plate, which, I'm not an aerodynamicist, but it must have done something, because it did all right. But there's a tiny little aerofoil around the lamp pod, which appears to sort of which sort of directs supposedly a little more airflow back into the engine bay.
You'll have to ask Lewis from WRC Wings, maybe.
Yes,
if he's listening, which I think he may be.
I'm sure he'll be castigating me now.
He might be able to fill us in on that. But yeah, really, again, not a really impressive car, and again, all the better for the fact that it shouldn't be there, that it was sentenced to death, as it were. Yeah. And it's always good to see a KAM plate car anywhere, really, isn't it?
He needs a Mitsubishi. That's what he needs. On the subject of rally cars that get killed and crushed before their time by the people designing and building them, that's what he needs. That's the incongruous. But anyway, but yes, Killian, I'm beyond envious, and I will get over there at some point next year. It looks like an incredible assortment. I mean, Donagh sounds like one heck of a guy as well. We haven't even talked about his Mark II Focus WRC yet, which is one heck of a thing. But just
Yeah, wonderful. No, it was great. As I say, this has probably turned into a couple of hours of teasing people, enough shiting on, but it was a great experience. Worthy of giving thanks to Donagh once again, and I'll give him many more, for hosting us and being so welcoming and forthcoming with letting us look around and prod and poke, as it were. Makes a decent cup of tea as well.
Always good.
Which always helps, because it was rather cold, and giving up his time on a Sunday afternoon where he doubtless had better things to do, than host us lot. Yeah, no, it was really, really special. I really want to see it again, because there's more time to be had with stuff I didn't see or get enough time to look at and appreciate, for sure. And I'm sure the whole centre will continue to grow and evolve and get better and better, and hopefully it does so, and hopefully the people who will appreciate it get to see it at some point. And on the topic of that focus as well, yeah, that was another really good one to look at, because you get to see some nice details in that car. And again, another car that I spent years looking at from a ditch and taking videos of and whatnot. But you could really see the washer bottle in that car is down to the left of the driver's seat. The windscreen washer bottle.
The screen wash, yeah,
is down to the left of the driver's seat, and all the clutch fluid reservoir and brake fluid reservoir are like basically down on the floor behind the driver's seat, so you get that real extremity of shifting the weight back to the center and lowering the center of gravity, which was really, when you open the door, is really, really obvious in that car, which is really cool. Great car, as I said, and it's probably the one people will most associate Donagh's rallying career with. Some incredible results to that car, and as I said, very, very reliable as well. Like, not to have any sort of, didn't really give him any trouble. It was great. And again, the same day we're recording this, Donagh's son, Eamon, who was the junior British Rally Champion of 2022, has been the most recent recipient of the Motorsport Ireland Billy Coleman Award as well. So hearty congratulations to Eamon.
Absolutely.
Well deserved on that as well. And we just did see last weekend Donagh in his M3, E30 M3 in the Bastos livery, another favourite livery of ours, of course.
Yes, I saw that at Ulster Rally. Was it last year? I think. Yeah. Man can pedal.
For sure. And Eamon, unfortunately, in the Escort had engine woes on stage one of first run of Miles Gap. So we didn't get to see him.
Was that Mark 1?
Mark 2. Mark 2. In the Shell black Escort colours that we discussed with Ray Charette, that livery, the Vatanen black Escort colours. How was Killarney? Yeah, superb as always. One of the few rallies I watch here, or that you go to here, when I think I'm actually happier being the spectator. I would happily compete in Killarney Historic, but I'm very, very happy to just sit on the side of the stage and enjoy it and soak it up. And well, when you text me at 4 a.m., whatever it was, saying that, I guarantee you weren't feeling that, because it was -6 or whatever. Yeah, sleeping in the back of my van, about 2/3 of the way through the Miles Gap stage. No, it was okay. Yeah, I mean, I didn't fall down. There was a perilous moment in the middle of the night when I had to get up and go for a piss. But that I didn't end up tumbling down the mountain. But yeah, it was great. We had a great crew there. Camping out there on the stage is definitely the way to do it. And we had some crack, yeah. And it's quickly really becoming the best rally of the year in Ireland, I think. I was lucky enough to do it with you in 2019, and it was just stonking, like amazing. You appeared to be in a similar spot. It was the exact same spot. Yeah, exact same spot. Yeah, exact same spot as what we did at that time. Which is a great spot. So there's probably like 7 or 8 campers and stuff like that, and a few other people kind of chucked into their cars that we were up just the night before. So like, we were on the beer since 3:30 the day before. So we got an early night, to be fair. And I didn't wake up with the procession of cars going past in the morning. Such a credit to the amount of hot whiskies that were kindly prepared the night before by someone else who was there. Yeah, great rally as always. Breen's Sierra, the ex Frank Maher. Sierra was stunning to watch.
And the camaraderie.
With Greer giving him the
Yeah,
diff.
absolutely. I mean, it's not it's all we'd expect given our spot, but even then, I was talking to my mum about the Killarney rally last Saturday at the evening of it, and telling her that story, and she, a complete didn't give a toss about rallying, and that was the bit that sort of sold it to her, the sort of the willingness to go above and beyond.
It's the drum. The drum I always. Yeah, it's the drum I always beat about rallying is that the community is the strongest part of it, really, at the end of the day. So another example of that. Yeah, stunning collection of cars again on the roads there, and there isn't many better places in the world to watch a rally than in Killarney, frankly.
Amen.
That's a hill I will readily die on, but I don't think we'll have a whole pile of debate.
Plenty of bodies on that hill, don't worry.
And next year, of course, we should hopefully see the likes of 555 and Pretzels, and Escort Cosworth will be eligible, 93. So that should be eligible too, no? From next year on.
I'll be decamping to Ireland full time for next year.
Yeah. It seems to have attracted a bit more interest from abroad again than before. So yeah, I think it's just going to grow and grow. I mean, it's close to 170 entries with a big reserve, which is insane for a 7-stage rally, and it's a testament to the club and everyone who runs that rally, and the nature of the course as well. So it's long may it continue. So look, we've been banging on a bit now, and look, it is the season finale, so it is going to be that bit of a longer episode. But before we bring it to a close, we might maybe touch on, it's been a really nice year, almost a year now of doing this. So maybe, Jamie, it's a good time that I ask you as we finish season 2 of Rally DNA, and it's still on to think that we've done 2 seasons of this now. Thanks, Tony Simpson, for giving us seasons.
Thanks, Tony Simpson, for telling us that you've got to have seasons. Otherwise, it turns into a continual, never-ending.
He just wanted to annoy Trevor Agnew, didn't he? So, yeah, what have your highlights been over the
I mean, if
12 months we've had doing this?
If we're talking anecdotes, it has to be Armin Schwartz busted into the Skoda boardroom in the lead up to the 2001 Safari Rally and demanding to have.
Is this where you do a German accent and recite it now?
It's no. It's the French. It's the French we do the accents. I'll have you know that we'd never stoop to that. Also, if I do it, it'll get a bit faulty towers.
Yeah.
But we've been fortunate enough to have so many wonderful guests. I still staggers me that we got Alistair McRae. I kind of like him again, to be honest, now, because having done a few more, I feel like I could do even more and ask many more impertinent questions. But Armin Schwartz was incredible. The anecdotes, the Octavia WRC in Celica, ST205, Lust, and the fact that him and Mark Douay both signed off with just the most welcoming, we love the fact that you people love rallying kind of comments going, and Mark as well deserves another shot. Mark Douay was just incredible, despite him cooking a 10-course tasting meal in the background with his dog and his every single pot and pan he had in his collection. But just standout people, incredible guests. Well, I think so. And really grateful for people who have achieved so much for giving their time for a small niche rally podcast.
Oh yeah. I mean, at risk of parroting what you've said, I'd find it very hard to add a whole pile to that. It's very humbling and heartwarming to get the likes of the comments and the engagement that we've had from people we've asked to come on, to people that that you watched on the telly or whatever and grew up reading about and all that, and to go, yeah, fair play to you for doing that, not to be talking us up too much or whatever, but it was really nice to hear those comments and appreciation and how willing reaching out to a lot of these people was very much a shot in the dark.
And you should take most credit for some of these really obscure and big captures, I must say. Like, you know, in terms of if I had £1 for every time I've been at work and I've had a message from Killian saying I've traced some left field long dormant email for insert left field rally engineer or rally driver here, then I'd have, you know, £20 right now. So no one should be under any doubt of the amount of sleuthing and graft we both put in, but Killian in particular.
I think you know, if I had to pick one, if it was guessing or just doing by sheer brute force and trial and error, Paul Howarth's email. Eventually, one of them, because they'd all bounce back if they were wrong, and then one day he replied. You know,
you better hope there's not all these other Paul Howarths who couldn't give a tuppenny fart about rallying.
Yeah.
What would be your favourite guest?
Again, I really enjoyed having Mark and Armin on, and Armin was actually the first guy to agree to come on, but due to being busy with his rally school and whatnot, he couldn't be the first guest. And I remember that was I thought that was cool as fuck when he fucking, replied and said, yeah, no bother, that'll be great, but it'll be a few months or whatever. And yeah, no bother, Armin. I still think Richard Brown, really, for me.
What a guy.
Could we have actually hoped for a better chap to start the whole show with, and still remains our most popular guest?
I mean, he's got that perfect blend of knowing everything and being incredibly personable and explaining it in an everyday manner. He's just superb. So, Richard, thank you.
Oh yeah. Thanks again, Richard. It made our job a lot easier when we hadn't really a clue what we were doing. And I don't know if our interview technique or experience or anything has developed as this has gone on. I'd like to think we've gotten a little bit better, but certainly we were very much out lost in the woods at the start. And
that first episode was just me and you looking at each other on Zoom while Richard talked, trying to work out if we should actually say anything or just keep stum.
Yeah. This is all gold. Just keep recording. So here's hoping to more of it. It's been a lot of fun. This is the kind of shit we talk about all the time, so we just decided to record it, and we've gotten to talk to a lot of really interesting, passionate people, and even braved doing our own thing with some non-guest episodes, which have become a highlight for me. And here's to 2023 and kicking off season 3 in, the Thursday that Monty starts, I think, is where we're going to kick off. So now I've said it, so we have to hold.
I was going to say, I'm glad for that. I'm glad you gave me a heads up there. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah. So that will be Thursday the 19th of January will be the start of season 3.
Can't wait.
Thank you so much to everyone that's been listening and following us on social media. And I've kept saying to people as the year's gone on, well, I would do this if no one listened, but I really wouldn't. I mean, it's nice to talk about rallying and talk to these people, but seeing the fact that people are listening to it does push you on.
So you're saying it's only the praise of strangers on the internet that makes it worthwhile?
We haven't gotten a whole pile of praise. Just look at the numbers. I don't know what to praise.
But no, it's wonderful, honestly, guys. Thank you. We both appreciate the support. It's immense.
Yeah. So on that note, it's goodbye from me, and
me too. It's just been Rally DNA,
and we'll see you again in 2023. Thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.